We love what we're doing. Obviously, it's an unbelievable profession to be a part of, but there is that empathy. And it's not like we're in college. We're not recruiting against each other.
Well, kind of not.
Yeah.
Well, kind of now, says Doc, who obviously had to recruit the biggest recruit of the summer and got him in Kawhi Leonard. Now, that section of the pod was basically them talking about how coaches really have sympathy for each other and that there really is a fraternity and a bond. And I think that's very true. But I'm curious, Richard, to find out what you think about the idea of NBA coaches actually taking more part in recruiting talent like they did in college. I believe the meeting with Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers was at Doc Rivers' house in Malibu.
The secret meeting?
I mean, it's not a secret anymore. You can find out about it on the jump. Is that a fair expectation to put on a pro coach?
You have to, because players, they want to know where they're going to go. And yes, players can recruit players. Like, we've seen that in the last 10 years. But also, you think about it, players now are signing 4-year deals. That means they can become free agents in 3 years, right? So that means every 3 years you're going to have this group of free agents, and there's always this class was one of the greatest classes of ever. But you also look at these guys and say hey, we have to convince them to come here. And your coach, the person that's going to be leading your franchise, is going to be the head of that. And I think Doc Rivers and even Spo, these guys have to get out in front of it. They can't just depend on players to recruit players. They have to have owners are now a part of it. You saw Ballmer. Coaches are a part of it. I think it's just how the game has evolved.
Yeah, they're all interconnected. And when you talk about the coach, there's a couple of things. One is how creative you are as a coach, right? Because I want to know how you're going to use me. How's my life going to be made better by playing in your playbook? But the other thing is communication style. And this is not a big free agent this summer, but J.J. Redick going to New Orleans in part was because he knows Alvin. He played for Alvin as an assistant with the Clippers, and so players know, they all talk to each other about coaches that are good at communication and know how to be straight shooters, which is a rarity in this league. And so these are all things that, as a coach, you control part of the recruiting process, regardless if you're actively calling guys, hey, you need to play here or not. It's not college, but it's its own form of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Another topic that they talked about that I thought was really interesting was how difficult it's been for coaches to keep players' attention in this era. Spo told a story about how Pat Riley once had this multi-hour film session. He actually kept everyone there for an entire day. He said, we're going to have a 9-to-5 workday. It was a great story. And then Spo said, if I had a 17-minute film session, I would lose everyone. Yeah. We see pictures here of guys, the infamous 76ers cell phone on the bench, Joel Embiid thing from this year. Is it fair to say that players are more distracted nowadays? Has just the whole culture of American culture changed?
Yeah, I think American culture, if you look at it from that standpoint, everyone is more distracted. Guys are out there with headphones, they're picking their playlist. J.R. Smith once said, he goes, I know how well I'm shooting based on when I finish in my playlist, right? So when he's going through stuff, but everyone's different, and I look at it. Look, Steph Curry is doing things we've never seen before, right? James Harden is working on a step-back three that's going to help them get to the NBA Finals. There's a lot of things that are going on that players are evolving, right? No, but I'm saying, even though they're distracted, players are still growing and getting better. So as long as the game continues and it's not affecting the game negatively, and yes, don't bring a cell phone on a bench. Don't do that. But these are the things that I think everyone in our community is distracted, but I don't think it's taken away from the game.
No, it's not. They're more distracted. That there are more distractions for all of us, all of us here, and anyone who isn't on a flip phone pretty much has to deal with these distractions.
Andrew Luck is still using a flip phone.
Well, you were complaining about not being able to get your Wi-Fi in here.
Yeah,
you can't even get your LTE in here.
My bars weren't working. But the other part of this is, Pat Riley talking about multi-hour film session. We've also have actual data that tells us, in general, an hour or 2 hour film session doesn't last, the information does not last at all because people's brains shut off. And that comes from we're consuming so much media.
The visual training is just different.
But just think about how we're consuming, the idea, I remember when I started in the media business, 5 or 6 years ago.
Why'd you go in quotations?
Because it's such a pretentious thing to say. But the idea was of
you
a video.
All the other things
of a video
that are pretentious.
A video that was longer than 5 minutes. It was oh no, it got to be under 5 minutes.
Right.
And then it's 3 minutes. And then now it's it's got to be 60 seconds because that's the length of an Instagram video.
No, we used to literally, a guy would dunk on somebody in the first half. Everyone would come back to the locker room, get on their phones, and be showing each other on House of Highlights, right? It's or showing each other on fucking ESPN, showing each other all over these things, and you're just looking at it. It's hey, this is the way it's going. It's real time. It's fast. Guys are just consuming this information coaches can't even say anything anymore.
Yeah, and that's one thing I liked about the discussion on this pod, and it's just so great to hear both of those guys together because these are two of the more creative coaches in the game, right? So they were talking about it wasn't one of those old man shakes fist at sky discussions. It really was like, oh, how do you do this differently now? Oh, it's kind of a creative challenge. How do we kind of get inside of guys' heads in a different way? It was cool to hear that, and we'll only see more of it.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports analysis and highlights, download the ESPN app. And for live streaming and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.